we're delighted to have Richard Lauder with us today. He's a club member, Wichita club member for a long time, and he's been to a number of our shows in the past. And we're just thrilled that he contacted me and told about a project that he's been involved in himself. This for the last 9 or 10 years. And we're going to see a sampling of what he does today. He collects and specialized postcards from Door County, Wisconsin. And I spell it each time because there might be different ways of spelling door, but this is just like the door on your front door, Door County in Wisconsin. He'll be showing you where that is on the map and everything. But he's taught himself how to, well, I'm going to let him tell about it. I won't go into the details of that, but I think you're going to be amazed and pleased to see what he does with his own real photo postcard collection from Door County. You and I, all of us, could do something similar with our postcards, and this is pretty amazing. So welcome, Richard Lauder, and thanks for being here today, and take it away.
Thanks, Hal, and welcome to everybody from across this big spread. Our local postcard club, unfortunately, has very few members anymore. We all getting older, but it looks so nice to see all the people who collect postcards and have you guys show up for meetings like this. I've been working with my postcard collection from Door County, and we're going to show you in a couple seconds where that is. But to give you an idea, it's been a lifelong pursuit of mine. I've got over 7,000 postcards from Door County. And that's so many that there's no way possible anybody could sit and look at them with their eyes glazed over. So I decided to try something else as far as trying to get these postcards in front of people. And so I started making videos a la Ken Burns of the old postcards, putting them together with voices and sounds. And what you're going to see today is an example of one of those videos, this one covering a small town called Fish Creek in Door County. Oh, before we go there, we take a look at the map. If you notice that Green Bay sticks out into Lake Michigan, and the top of Green Bay is Door County with a red line around it right now. That is an island in the middle. There's a cut right through Sturgeon Bay where the black arrow is going back and forth. That makes an island out of the northern part, and Fish Creek is our attention for today. I grew up in Sturgeon Bay, but years ago I moved to Fish Creek and opened up an art gallery there. It's been a favorite spot of mine from those days forward. And this video today is going to capture some of Fish Creek back in 1905 up till the 1940s. While Alan's working, I'll tell you a couple of facts about Fish Creek since I lived there once in the late 60s. The town is so small that in the wintertime, you could fire a gun down Main Street and hit nobody for months at a time. The population dropped off to like about 75 people, all who went to bed by 8 o'clock at night. Today, Fish Creek is a extremely popular tourist destination, and it's becoming a year-round tourist destination as well. Many people in Illinois have decided that in their retirement years, they would love to go to Door County, go to Fish Creek, buy up any available land, and put up a McMansion on the site. So it's lost some of the early charm it's had, but it continues to be extremely popular today with people trying to say sometimes, if I want to avoid the crowds, I stay out of the Fish Creek area. But back then, when these postcards were made, they had no problem with crowds.
Hi, Richard Lauder here. As a longtime collector of real photo postcards of Door County, I've assembled a fair number of them. This DVD, using these same old postcards, allows one to travel back to see a much earlier Fish Creek. Join me now and welcome to a tour of yesteryear's Fish Creek.
You're looking at Fish Creek about 1905 from the water. There's a big bluff behind it, and the large building you see in the foreground is on a dock that's built by a fellow by the name of George Clark. That was for the steamships and other boats to arrive and store stuff in that warehouse. Also, you'll note there's piles of wood around it. Those are wood that would be used for the boats for their energy, and these would be shipped out. They'd pile up during the wintertime, and then all summer long and into the fall, the various boats that needed lumber for their power sources would come in and pick up that lumber. There's one other building there of note. If you look right past the building on the middle and right to its right, there's a small building with a flag on top of it. That building was called the casino. No, they didn't have gambling there. I found out later that casino in Italian meant resort. And the fellow who owned it, Dr. Welker, wanted people to know that it was a very fancy resort. So he chose the name casino for it. One of the early developers of Fish Creek was a very lucky gentleman. He was a merchant from Chicago. He owned a stove manufacturing company. The name was George Clark. And he bought from one of the early founders a 2-mile stretch along the Green Bay side. And this would be the side that you're going to see throughout the video today when we talk about sunsets. In order to watch the sunset from one of his homes, he had this little cave built right down on the water so his guests could go down there in the evenings, sit there inside in comfort, and watch the sun go down. The Cave, 1905. More video. This is taken of the same area from Postcards.
August 26, 1911. I suppose you and Miss McGregor had an enjoyable trip. How fast the vacation is going. It does not seem as though September was almost here. With love, Florence McKinnon.
Okay, now we're going to take a look at Fish Creek itself at that time. This is called the Crossroads. This is the main street, and you'll notice there's no stop and go lights there. This is what this town looked like in 1908, coming down the hill. 1905, same thing. There's a building on the far right. Looks like a little bit of like Oriental architecture. That's a restaurant called the Maple Tree. And if you look right past the tree, past the restaurant, there is the Maple Tree right there. The place on the far side of that, the other side, is hidden now underneath that tree. That's a hotel. The owner of that hotel built this for his 2 daughters, who unfortunately by this time were widows, very young. Their husbands had drowned in a boating accident on Green Bay in 1906 when they hit a typhoon on the water. Not wanting his daughters to end up indigent in their later years, he built this so that they would be able to have a restaurant and supply food for people coming from on the boats and make a living for the rest of their lives without having to, go begging in the streets. That's the Maple Tree Cafe, close up of it. And you'll see up on top, it has what they would call a widow's walk built on top, where people could go up there and watch sunsets, sunrises, and look out over the water in the daytime. And also was a place where people played cards and drank tea. So the Maple Tree restaurant is still there today. Today it's called the Summertime, and it still looks very much the same. Main Street, Fish Creek. This is where the crossroads crossed. And if you had to go buy anything, you got two choices right here. Lundberg store in the corner behind the car, and next to it, the Hill store. They sold the same kind of products, but the Hill store had one more advantage. Upstairs, they held dances at night, and there was also a place where they played basketball games. No idea what a high shot would have done up there, except bounce down off the ceiling pretty fast. But anyway, that's Main Street, Fish Creek, and the main businesses. The bluff was a very important part of Fish Creek, that big structure we saw behind the buildings. Postcards were made of that as well.
August 21st, 1907. This gives you a good view of the cliff. Are having delightful weather. Hope your summer has been pleasant to you. My parents join me in kind greetings. Elizabeth Frone.
June 5th, 1909. To Mr. A.C. Voris, Mott, North Dakota.
Bert, take another look at this old bluff in all its glory. When you get a real twister out there, you'll wish you were under its protection once more. Mabel.
The big way that people got to Fish Creek back in those days, the roads were awful. They came by steamship, and they came up from Chicago and from Sturgeon Bay itself. And here's one of those boats arriving, the Bonamy, as it comes in. Landing at Clark's Dock. This is called the Thistle, a smaller boat than the Bonamy, but you can see the excited crowd there waiting to see who's on the boat and what they're bringing in. This card with the Bonamy at the dock shows the group on board the boat, and they're obviously all assembled to gather for the postcard, the photographer, to take a picture before they start loading or unloading. I imagine this was coming in. That same dock needed frequent repairs. In the wintertime, when you could go out on the ice, you could shore it up again and repair whatever damage was done during the ice shoves as the storms of winter would go through Fish Creek. There's also a pretty nice view of that warehouse. It's not a very attractive looking building, but it certainly had a place to store stuff. The boat on the far right, we're going to see in a later slide, or what's left of it. This is now going to be video of those same scenes at the dock, set to music and set to voice. That shot of the car is what caused all the boats to disappear. Once the roads were put in, it was much more efficient to travel by car and much cheaper. And that way you had a little more freedom as far as where you wanted to go as well. Now, this next card we're looking at is one of my favorites from that area. There are 5 brothers here and their friend. Their friend's got the X on his chest. The other 5 boys are all members of the same family, the Duclan boys. Ma Duclan and Pa Duclan ran the lighthouse about 2 miles away. And these boys all grew up in that lighthouse. They all were musically inclined. Mother, in fact, had a piano at the lighthouse itself. And so the boys would be available for wedding dances, any kind of dances in the evenings, and also just to show their talents and also their idea of having fun, going out to local events dressed like you see here. If you can imagine a county fair somewhere and these guys coming down the fair, coming down the midway, blowing their horns and hitting the drum, you can imagine what a sight they must have provided and what amusement they must have provided for people at the county fairs. So the note on the side, I don't know if we got audio, but it reads, "How is this for a band? That's my brother with the white suit. I wish you could have heard them. JJC." And I wish I could have heard them too. But we do have one little addition to the card. Next. Hal would appreciate that. This image shows some unusual things that would arrive for the various regattas they would have. The major regattas in the summertime would attract lots and lots of sailboats, yachts, and in this case, 3 amphibious airplanes. 2 of them very noticeable here. And if you were a good detective looking over on the left side, you can see the pontoon of another one that is covered up by the wing of the other one. So by the mid-40s, Fish Creek was a busting and burgeoning tourist area, and things like regattas got all the people to show up there and enjoy the wonderful atmosphere and also the great weather. Unlike right now in Wisconsin, July in Door County was, something to behold. And today, if you drove down to the Fish Creek area and you took one of the side roads, you would come to this little event right here, a hairpin curve that is so dangerous that if you're driving over 10 miles an hour, that white fence that you see on the right is probably not going to be enough to hold you. That fence still existed, or the drive still exists today. I don't know about the fence. But in the wintertime, the county closes the road down so there aren't any people trying to do this dangerous maneuver. But this leads down to that same postcard you saw earlier of the cave on George Clark's property. Once you come out the other end of this little road, you're on George Clark's land right there at the point. Okay, next we're going to take a look at one more video clip. That's it.
Thank you, Richard. My goodness. I loved how all of the ladies and gentlemen both just dressed fit to kill, it seemed. All of those clothes and uh, so many people there at the dock and getting off and on ships, and it's just really amazing. Richard, tell us a little bit, if you would, please, about the process involved in making and creating these videos. I think you said you had done 9 of them over the years, so that's
Yes, thank you. Basically, you start by having the postcards, obviously. And by scanning them into a scanner, you get an audio or visual record of the postcard. By reading the backs of them, you find out who's saying what about, that idea. And then by having enough postcards, in this case, 7,000, I took the best 375 or so Door County or Fish Creek ones and put them all together in some kind of a logical sequence. And then using a computer program, which would do video editing, I'd enter the pictures, add the add the visual effects of zooming in, of moving along the side of the card or whatever. And then also getting the voices on the back, where I had a number of people come and help me do the readings, and then put that in there. Yes, the commercial. You're very good, right, Paul? It takes a long time to do together, but it's really a nice challenge. With winter in Wisconsin, challenges are a good idea because you can sit and work for hours on these things, and I did. And the nice part about it is that when you get all done, you have a product that you can share with a lot of people. In fact, I've done a number of presentations with these up in Door County, and the 40 or 50 people show up. Probably none of them are deltiologists, none of them are postcard collectors, but they all leave there then after they watch the video and hear about the questions and answers with a newfound appreciation of what postcards are, and also why they shouldn't just throw them away, but that somebody could really make good use of them. So I've had very good success selling the DVDs. I have them for sale on eBay, for instance. And they're also available in the, I had a stroke a couple of years ago, so words sometimes escape my mind.
public library, I think you said.
The public library and the museums up there that sell, anything that when you come in the door, they're available there as well. So people really get to run into these things in a lot of different aspects. The ones at the library are checked out very frequently. And since I work on them and I get new postcards, I end up replacing the old videos at the library free of charge with the newest ones with the newest postcards. So that's why at the end of that last one, you saw copyright 222 or 2022. If I come across one that says copyright 2014, I know that's one of my earliest ones, and time for it to be replaced. So I think you got a flavor of it at least.
Yeah, very much so. It's just amazing to see the differences. And I keep thinking about, something about my hometown, Wichita, Kansas, how it might be incorporated into something like what you've done. But,
There's
to
a
show
great story I
different
can tell
things.
you. If I could jump over you a little bit there, Hal.
Sure.
There's a great story about the Dukeland boys, or one of the Dukeland boys. Those were the 5 kids from the lighthouse. One of them, Clyde Dukeland, was walking down the street about 1908 in Fish Creek. And you all saw the crossroads there. You saw how big that berg was. One of his friends came riding by in a carriage with horse-drawn carriage. And he said, "Say, son, can you tell me where the federal building is?" And Clyde Dukeland didn't even bat an eyelash. He turned to the man and said, "Yes, sir. You go down to the next stop and go light, and you go 3 blocks up, cross the viaduct, turn left at the next stop and go light, go down about a quarter mile, and that big building over there, that's the federal building." And his friend who asked the question said, "Thank you, sir. Giddy up, horse." And he went off on his ride. So it was people who knew how to have fun.
Oh,
And I think, by trying to do the video, I hope that you can bring some of that fun back. And also, as Hal points out, how people, dressed so formally, no matter what they were doing. And I've got lots of postcards, and so I'm sure everybody else does too. When you went to the fairground, you didn't wear, shirts and jeans and a t-shirt. You
yeah,
had on white clothes and stuff like that.
yeah.
So
It's me. I loved how with your camera and just going into the stationary picture, but how you just could almost see the waves moving, as you got closer and closer. And of course the audio, my goodness. You think about the water birds and you think about the waves lapping at the shore, and God, it just was very, very neat.
well,
Thank you.
we have to do a tip of the hat to George Eastman, because a lot of these early postcards, when you blow them up on a huge screen, and when I give talks sometimes, they put them on a screen that's 20 feet across. They hold up beautifully.
Yeah.
The details are there, and make a 20-foot screen and the details are still there.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to see.
Well, thank you so much. It was just terrific. Bill Burton, do we have any questions that you'd like to unmute yourself and tell us about? And we'll ask Richard.
You would not believe how many people were just awestruck by what you did, Richard. You have I've never seen a fan club assemble so fast from the comment section. Wow, gee whiz, how'd he do that? That's pretty amazing. Came along in great confusion. I must be 20 of those comments in here. But some of the more specific comments or questions, one came from Ashley Ahrens, who wanted to know if you wanted to know how she could go about adding Fish Creek to her bucket list, because it's awfully hot down in Arkansas in July. She wanted to know if she could come up.
She would love it there. I wouldn't come in the summertime because it's overrun with people, but come up in the fall and it's beautiful.
Well, and I think she'll probably be coming along with Flo Witt, who said she wanted to come too.
There you go.
Flo lives in Florida now, so that'll be a good trip.
Lundberg's store is still there in the corner. But
Okay.
now they sell clothing to yuppies who want to, go down the beach. So,
Katie Clark wanted to know about how you amassed your collection.
by collecting for the last 50 years, going to the postcard shows. I used to hand out a postcard to dealers every show saying, if you find any Door County, get a hold of me. And that paid dividends. And also, in my part, I'm not afraid to travel to go find postcards. I've been to Texas to shows, up to the East Coast, and I've bought postcards on eBay all the way from Europe.
Wow. Ashley Ahrens was back and wanted to know where, and I think she meant specifically, where you got the audio that you used for the various video clips.
There's a great clue there. The bird sounds come from birds that are descendants of the original ones up there. I went to Door County and recorded the birds up there. So these are the great grandchildren of the birds in the original pictures. And the other audio parts, you can go to the library and get sound effects, or you can go, if you want sounds of water, you just go down to the water roaring somewhere and record the sound of, gentle water, splashing water. And I've done that as well. You get very creative about trying to find sound effects. I like especially the sounds of the old boats, and you hear their boat whistles blowing. Those are available often on things like YouTube for free. You can just download the sound and there you have it.
An automobile going down the road and things like that.
All the sounds, they're all out there. Or you go out and make your own. I recorded the sound of what do they call, again, the mind, shuffleboard. I got shuffleboard and a lot of postcards from up there. So I went out in the street in front of my house here and threw a frisbee along the street and recorded the sound of the frisbee made. Worked perfectly for shuffleboard.
Oh, great, great.
Paul Steiner wanted to know about any commercial fishing, which we didn't see on the show. And also,
they did the commercial fishing really from the 1920s up to about 1960, 70. Now they still do some out in the ocean or out in the Great Lakes, but not that much in the actual harbor anymore. The actual harbor is just filled with boats.
he wanted to also know whether you were able to get any specific dates on any of these cards that you showed, besides the ones that already had it written on.
Oh, sure. I would say probably 60% of the ones have dates on the back because they come from that period of time.
Okay, and then one last one. Well, there's now another one in the window, but Jay Daly wanted to know whether there are any contemporary, that is today's cards, of Fish Creek.
Oh, there certainly are, but copyright issues keep me from using those. And also they're so modern that it doesn't appeal to me as much as the old stuff. Someone also asked about, any important photographers. Actually, there were two up in Door County at this early days. One who was named Conant, C-O-N-A-N-T. And the other one, and both these guys signed the cards on the outside. Another one was called, his last name was Dye. But by the way he writes it, it looks like he's writing the word love. So when people put them up on eBay, they say signed by Love. Well, they don't really recognize it's his poor writing. It actually says Dye. There's also a great story connected to that. There was a young woman photographer who lived right outside of Fish Creek, and she made some beautiful postcards back in 1906, 1907. She had a small camera. She used to take her bicycle around and take pictures. She made some great postcards. As soon as they started to sell well, she had no copyright protection. Other people ripped off the same card and started selling it under their names.
An unusual thing, unfortunately.
Yeah,
John Levine wanted to know if any of the steamers have survived.
Not really. World War II would have taken care of any scrap that was still left.
So those were the metal boats, but what? None of the wooden boats?
No, they don't. Those wooden boats were old already by the time that 1910 came along, because they were built in the 1880s, 1890s. The one that the two men that lost their lives in, that boat was about 30 years old, but it hit a typhoon. And in fact, one of the daughters of the two girls who had the restaurant, one of their sisters drowned in that same accident.
Jeez.
So it was really an enormous tragedy. That boat, by the way, is still on the bottom of the Green Bay up there. And divers go down and look at it, but no one touches it anymore. There is unfortunately still remains on board the boat from the sinking back in 1905. So I've got a diver friend who's been down to see that boat, and he told me about that.
Well, let's see. One last from Jerry Daniela says, she comments, it says it's a grave site.
Correct.
That makes it protected?
Yeah, no longer are you allowed to go down and disturb grave sites. Because 25, 30 years ago, people did that.
Well, that's all we've got in the way of comments. So I must say again, this is of all the programs I've been doing this is the most active audience we've ever had.
Well, that's great.
We've stirred up a lot of interest, that's for sure. And it just is exciting to have been a part of this, Richard, and thank you so much. And thank you too, Bill Burton, for your help and for helping with the questions and fielding them so well. We thank you all for coming and look forward to seeing you in April.
Before everybody leaves, I just want to say as a PS here that anybody wants to know about how to do these videos, they can just send me an email and I'll, let them know what I'm doing.
Okay. Thanks again, Richard. And thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you in April. Bye-bye.